Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to V's My Passion on YouTube's premium channel about all things women's football, and welcome back to Top 5. This is, of course, the series where I go to the top 5 leagues in Europe and pick out what match from each league that you should go out of your way to watch, whether it be the full match or the highlights. And without further ado, let's get right into it as we start off with the Women's Super League in England, where Arsenal took on Aston Villa. Now, Arsenal were the team at home here at the Emirates, where 30,000 people did turn out to see the Gunners in action against Aston Villa, with Arsenal lining up in a 4-2-3 formation and Aston Villa in a 3-4-3 formation. And Arsenal would come back from behind in the dying embers of the match here, with goals coming from Katie McCabe and Alexia Russo, who got set up by the returning Beth Mead, was coming off the back of an 11-month injury layoff. When Mead came onto the pitch, he was immediately welcomed with rapturous applause and a pretty much white-hot reception from the crowd and the players as well, and it was just a beautiful sight to see, and it was poetry for her to be the one to set up the winning goal for Russo there. But looking at the game as a whole, there are just a few talking points that I want to bring up when you're watching this match. First of all, Daphne van Domsela, she is a star in every sense of the word. How Aston Villa managed to get her from under the noses of bigger teams, I have no idea. But one thing I can say for sure, I don't think that she's going to be staying at Aston Villa too long. Maybe next season will be her last season in Villa before she makes a step up to a bigger team like Arsenal, who were also in the hunt for a goalkeeper. Of course, there was news that they were looking to get Mary Earps from Manchester United, but of course, they failed in their pursuit, and it is what it is. But they should definitely be looking at Daphne van Domsela, in my opinion. But apart from that, another player who is definitely due for some credit and for some praise is Katie McCabe. She was pretty much the driving force behind Arsenal's attack, and she was the one helping to keep the attack going, especially towards the end. And she was the one who was pretty much the architect behind some very golden opportunities that were just squandered by some of the Arsenal players here. But just a word on Arsenal's attacking play in general. Jonas Edeval and his team, they need to stop spamming crosses. I don't know why he believes crosses are the way to actually score goals. I understand that Arsenal has some physically dominating players in their lineup like Frida Monum and Amanda Ilestedt, especially when looking at corner set pieces. But unfortunately for the Gunners, every time that they've been crossing the ball, especially in their game here against Aston Villa and in their first game against Liverpool, they have just failed to make the best out of them, because either they get shut down by the opposition defense or the crosses are not completed and the players who are supposed to receive the crosses effectively do nothing. So I think it definitely needs to be something that the team needs to work on, in the sense that you cross less and start playing more centrally and see what happens from there, because they did play a more central game and a more grounded game against Manchester United, and that seemed to get more results from an attacking sense, where Arsenal were more lethal and Manchester United were more afraid of Arsenal in the game. And I think it's definitely something that Edeval should look to build from, rather than only reserve for big games. And I think that's something they should definitely look at. And for Aston Villa, this does mean this is their third loss on the bounce here, and it is a very worrying trend, because Villa are a good team. They have shown it in their first three outings here, especially in this match against Arsenal and their first match against Manchester United, where they were the team who scored first, and towards the end they just capitulate some way somehow, and it's very unfortunate. I think there needs to be something that needs to be done by the coaches at Aston Villa to realize that maybe we need to do this in order to see ourselves out and get the result, because right now the reflection of the results of Aston Villa are not true to what the team has done. So hopefully they can start to see an uptick in form. We move over to Germany now, where we had a belter of an encounter between Bayern Munich and Eintracht Frankfurt. Now both teams were coming off the back of some very convincing victories in the previous game week, and they were both looking to take the scalp of one another here. Now, as you may or may not know, Bayern of course are a big team for the Frauen Bundesliga, and so are Eintracht Frankfurt. So this was pretty much a heavyweight encounter here. Now Bayern were the team at home, and they lined up in a 4-2-3-1 formation, and Frankfurt were the team who were away, and they lined up in a 4-3-3 formation here. And this game, from pretty much the word go, was just hammer and tongues. They were just going at it with one another here, and it is unfortunate that the game did end 0-0, but at the same time I think it does give you a reflection of the high level of competitiveness that these two teams are bringing not only to the Frauen Bundesliga but also to each other here. But looking at the game overall, Bayern Munich were the stronger team in my opinion because they had the lion's share of chances, especially in the second half, where Frankfurt were the ones just sitting back, absorbing the pressure, and doing their best to make sure that Bayern don't get that crucial goal to let themselves go ahead. And Frankfurt did manage to do that, but looking at the way Bayern Munich were attacking, it was just so consistent, so effortless. It was cyclical. It was as if the team just knew where their respective members were, and it was just beautiful to watch. In my opinion, it was essentially total football personified. You can nail me to a cross if I'm wrong there, but that's my own opinion, and I think it was such good football to watch. And I think it's a reflection of where Bayern Munich are looking to go as a team, and I think that it will hopefully reflect very well when they start their European campaign in the Women's Champions League, of course, where I think they will be tested by much stronger teams with the likes of Barcelona and Chelsea, of course, being teams that they will likely face off with in the Women's Champions League. And I think those teams will give Bayern a very good litmus test to see how far they can take their prowess and if they can translate their success in the domestic game to the continental level. So hopefully we get to see more of that. And for Frankfurt, it is a good sign that they're heading in the right direction as currently the leaders of the best of the rest here, because again, Bayern Munich are on a whole other level. But for Frankfurt, it was very good to see them deal with the mounting pressure that came from Bayern Munich again, especially in the second half. And I think it's something to definitely build off of as a team. And I think what they're just missing, really more than anything else, is just a killer striker, the likes of Ramona Bachmann. I think if she was in that Frankfurt team, there would have been a lot more ease when it came to Frankfurt's attacking chances because they were few and far between, especially towards the end of the game here. And I think having a player like that who could just bully the defense would have done so many wonders for the team. But other than that, they did put in a good account for themselves, like they did last week against Red Bull Leipzig. But unfortunately, they weren't able to get themselves a win. But luckily for both teams, they each got a point, which was pretty much a deserving result for both of them. Up next, we go to the boot of Europe here, where Roma took on Inter Milan in another heavyweight encounter, with Roma being the team at home and lining up in a 4-2-3 formation and Inter lining up in a 4-2-3-1 formation. And Roma were the resounding winners in this match here, and they showed their class as to why they are the current defending and reigning champions of Serie A here, as they ran out 2-0 winners with some scintillating goals coming from Greggy and Giacinti. Greggy's goal in particular is the one to watch here because it was just a scintillating team goal that had no option and was inevitable that was going to be scored to give Roma the early lead in the game here. Inter Milan were unfortunately just passengers and they just couldn't do anything worthwhile with the ball because Roma would just quickly steal possession back and just go on the attack, and Roma's attacks were just sustained. And if it wasn't for the misfiring of Giacinti, I do believe that this match would have been a killer of a scoreline, something along the lines of 7-0 if not more. But thankfully for Inter Milan, Giacinti just seemed to be skiving so many of her shots, so it managed to look like a respectable 2-0 victory to Roma, even though it should have definitely been more. I think this game was very entertaining if you were a Roma supporter because you really got to see what the team was all about. If you're an Inter supporter or a neutral supporter, you would be shaking in your boots because you are seeing the level of the current world champions of Italy, and you are definitely going to be wondering what is it going to take for the teams in Serie A to stop this team. Maybe the likes of Juventus could do a good job of halting the progress of Roma, but at the same time, never say never because this team just performed at a whole nother level compared to Inter Milan, who are also one of the best of the rest in the Serie A division here for the women's teams. And I think just like with Bayern Munich, I think it's going to be also just as interesting to see how Roma deal with other teams on a continental level in the Women's Champions League, and to see if they can translate their style of play and their dominance in Italy to these other teams across Europe. I would especially be interested to see how they deal with the likes of an Eintracht Frankfurt. That I think would be a very scintillating match to watch, and hopefully we get to see it this season. But other than that, it was a very great matchup to see Roma just pretty much dismantling Inter Milan. Our penultimate destination takes us to the Spanish capital of Madrid, where Atletico hosted Barcelona, with both teams lined up a 4-2-3 formation, and the headlines surrounding, of course, Alexia Putellas, whose solitary goal in the game allowed her to become the all-time leading goal scorer for the Barcelona women's team, overtaking her national compatriot and fellow World Cup winner Jennifer Hermoso, and the other storyline being the return of Ana Maria Sinakovic to take on her former teammates in the Blaugrana after she was unceremoniously dubbed out by the club earlier in the summer transfer window here. And this match was also just as intense as the Bayern Munich and Eintracht Frankfurt match here, as it pretty much took a stroke of luck to an extent, as well as some very good team play, particularly from Esme Brutz and Maria Patri Hiaro, and of course Alexia Putellas, who got the goal in the end, as Brooks managed to make a line-breaking pass to Patri, who squared the ball to Putellas to just tap in home and give Barcelona the narrow lead, which led to their ultimate victory here. And this game was pretty much intense from the sense that both teams had equal opportunities to go and score and put themselves ahead, but unfortunately the goalkeepers were both well on duty along with some of their defenders as well, and it pretty much took, again, like I say, a mix of a stroke of luck and some good team play to ultimately break the deadlock between these two sides, as it could have easily gone either way, and either way would have been acceptable based on the high intensity performances from both teams here. But it was a very good and highly entertaining match to watch, even as a neutral, and I do recommend that out of the 5 matches that we will be looking at today, you look at this one in particular, because it was just wow from top to bottom. But that was a very great match to watch, and of course, congratulations to Alexia Putellas on making not only 400 plus appearances for the club, but now also becoming the all-time leading goal scorer for the team. And finally, we head off to the French capital of Paris, where Paris FC hosted EA Guingamp, and Paris lined up in the 4-2-3 formation, and Guingamp lined up in a 4-4-2 formation. And looking at the teams on paper, it was essentially a foregone conclusion that Paris were going to be the winners here, but it was just going to be interesting to see how they would go about winning this match, and also to see how EA Guingamp would do their best to make sure that Paris would not go away with the 3 points here. And essentially, when you start to watch the game, you'll see that in spite of Paris definitely being the stronger of the two teams, Guingamp were very good in holding their own, and that was going to seem to be the result of the game throughout its entirety, up until the 69th minute, where unfortunately a penalty would be conceded by the visitors after Bourdieu was going to be brought down in the box, and Thinney would be the one to dispatch the penalty to give Paris FC the lead. And unfortunately, it was essentially from this point where Guingamp just essentially gave up here, as they started to not look to press and attack more, they just looked to defend and just kind of give themselves, I guess, a humbling defeat. But it's unfortunate because that air of defeatism that happened to overtake the team, it did lead to, unfortunately, the final goal being scored to all but confirm the 3 points to Paris after Dufour would hit a worldie of a free kick. Quel bout, dans mon opinion, where it finally gave Paris FC the second goal that they needed, and of course the all-important 3 points in the D1 Arkema here, where they're pretty much trying to keep the pace with Olympique Lyonnais, who won 6-0 against Saint-Etienne, because again, Olympique Lyonnais is just a cheat code of a team, and it is unfair to try and compete against such a team. But if there is a team that is in Paris that can definitely give Lyonnais a run for their money, it's not Saint-Germain, it is definitely Paris FC. And hopefully, as the season goes by, they will definitely give a good account of themselves like they have done so far, and hopefully they can get something out of what promises to be an exciting season for them. And those are the top 5 matches to watch from across the top 5 leagues in Europe here. Based on a personal recommendation, I would advise that you go watch the Eintracht Frankfurt and Bayern Munich game here, because I think that would be the most thrilling of the 5. But I think, again, it's just my own personal opinion. Go out of your way to watch any of these 5 matches, and even if you don't like any of these teams that featured in these matches, go and watch your favorite team and just enjoy women's football in general. You can leave in the comments a match that you think I should definitely go out of my way to watch, because I would love to watch more than just these 5 that I've just picked out in particular. I did have a little bit of time to watch the Real Madrid game, and I just think, again, Real Madrid are definitely going to be contenders for the title, but again, they are also looking down the barrel of a strong defending champion Barcelona, who are just a cheat code when it comes to the squad depth that they have. I mean, they managed to bench a World Cup winner Salman Paraguelo and last season's top goal scorer in Asisat Oshuala in the game against Atletico Madrid. So that should just go and tell you the amount of competition that Real Madrid are facing in their quest to become Liga F champions. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.